Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 7 of the Road to Tenby podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, someone who's pretty well renowned in the triathlon scene, has travelled all over the world and competed all over the world with podiums left, right and centre like you can't imagine, and has also got more than 8 wins internationally as well. Dylan McNeice, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So how's things with you at the moment?
Not too bad. I'm a Kiwi. I'm from New Zealand, so we've managed to, I guess, deal with the whole worldwide dramas at the moment pretty well. We're essentially living normally, just with no sort of travel, or no international travel. So yeah, I guess when you look at some of the spots in the world, we're pretty good here, and I'm surviving probably my first full winter in many a year. So so far so good.
Yeah, it does seem like, to be fair, that you guys have done really well through the whole pandemic, and it was so nice on the weekend actually that I was just flicking through Sky Sports, and I've seen some of the rugby on, and it's just so nice to see some sports with crowds and a country that seems to be living in some form of normality,
Yeah, we're super lucky, and to be honest, I'm actually going to a rugby game this weekend. The Canterbury Crusaders, which is my team, I guess,
Nice.
versus the Auckland Blues, and
okay,
it's a good rivalry. It's sort of the North Island versus South Island. So yeah, look, super lucky to be in the position we are here in New Zealand, and yeah, to be honest, just looking forward to the world. Hopefully, getting on top of things and returning to some form of normality.
yeah, class. Yeah, it'd be. I guess it'd be nice just to be able to kind of jump on a plane and even just go on a little vacation or something, or just some form of normality. I mean, we're so far away from that in the UK, and Wales especially is a little bit further behind England as well. So pretty much all of the races have been canned here in the UK, even kind of like the smaller ones. Up until yesterday, we couldn't travel more than 5 miles to do anything. So it's been very restrictive, to be fair.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. I mean, we did I think we did 4, 5 or 6 weeks early on, just complete lockdown. Had to basically do that, stay within our bubbles, they were called. And I'm lucky where I live. I've got a forest sort of right next to our house, so we can
Nice.
do sort of some running and some mountain biking, and we've got the beach right there too, so do some walks along there. But yeah, I feel for you guys and the countries that are still locked down, and especially coming into summer. In winter it's okay to be stuck inside, but I feel for you guys.
Yeah. It's all good though. I mean, it's got to be done, and if it helps people kind of stay healthier and live longer, then it's worth it for sure. So just before we come on air there, you mentioned that you've retired from professional racing was it March or April?
Yeah, so I guess my time in retirement was pretty good. I know all the other professionals out there are really battling at the moment. There's no racing. A lot of the pro races are being cut, which is it's disappointing to see, but I guess it's understandable at the same time. So yeah, my timing, I guess, was not bad. But also I didn't really make any announcements because I sort of retired after Ironman New Zealand. The COVID situation was just sort of heating up then, and to be honest, I didn't feel like my retirement was really that big of a thing to be sort of talking about. So I've managed to just slip quietly into the abyss, I guess. And, I'm still enjoying sort of some training every day just to try and keep fit and not put on too many kilos. But yeah, look, I really loved being a professional, and super lucky to have been able to do what I did or have done. But my body was starting to sort of, give me some pretty clear signs that it might have been time to move on. So I still want to keep racing and enjoying the sport. I do really love it. So yeah, it's just it's just sort of turning a new page in the triathlon story for me, I guess.
It's quite interesting for me, and I was chatting to Nikki Bartlett about this as well, because as I mentioned before, like my background is golf. I work in the golf industry, and I was lucky enough to work with some really, really good athletes for a number of years, traveling all over the world like you guys would have racing. And the comparisons I draw between triathlon and golf, it just, like, from a triathlon perspective, it just doesn't make sense, because kind of when you look at like a golf professional, you know, if they've got a tour card, and you know, they've got probably 45 events that they could potentially play in over a year. Each week they could be earning money. Whereas you look at kind of like long course triathlon, like surely there's, you know, number one, if there is a race every week, you can't race every week. So like kind of like your opportunities then to earn money is kind of is limited just from the nature of the sport itself. And it's fascinating when I kind of, you know, just draw the comparison. So your schedule, I'm assuming, over the last couple of years, you, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you kind of look at your schedule from kind of like almost like an earnings perspective, and just kind of like trying to pick you know, the events where you think you'd be kind of like peaking, and where you could kind of like, you know, pick up a win here, pick up a win there? Like how does that all work? Because it's like I say, it's fascinating to me to kind of like think that you are limited in the amount of events you can race per year.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like you could race every weekend, but you wouldn't race at your best for very long. And it also requires, I guess, I'm not sure with golf, but I feel like if you're playing every week, I'm assuming you're playing over like 2 or 3 days at least per weekend kind of thing. So you're constantly rolling, and I doubt fatigue is as big an issue. Whereas in triathlon, you do a 4-hour race, say, at the minimum for a half Ironman, and you're going to feel that for a few days, and you've got to try and recover and then go again. So racing every week is possible, but you just wouldn't perform very well. You'd end up sick or injured. So you really do have to pick your moments that you're racing. And absolutely, for me, you know, I was never a world beater or anyone. I consider myself a bit of a journeyman. So I just love the fact that I was able to race as a professional athlete. It was kind of my dream as a kid, just to be a professional in something. And so I did have to pick my races, and some of it was based on money. Some of it for the last couple of years has been events that I just looked at and thought, A, I've either done that before and I really enjoyed racing it, or B, hey, I really want to do that race. And you know, Wales is one of those ones I looked at and I was like, I've got to go and race there. And I definitely don't regret going to Wales last year. And you know, at the same time, it was a bit of a financial decision as well. I was already in Europe. I knew the field might not be as strong just because of its timing close to Kona, and also the famous kind of Welsh course. So yeah, you always have to pick your courses, and also the best ones that you think you're going to make the best living on.
Yeah. So it is like, so your decision then to race in Wales last year, it sounds like it was a bit of a almost like a bucket list race. Would that be right in saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought the timing was good. It was going to open up to 2020 qualifying, I think, for Kona. So,
Yeah.
You know, we always race with that in mind too as professionals. And I thought if I could get my body back to 100% and have a great day, then I might be in for a shot at Kona. So yeah, lots of little things come into play. But I think I had the option between, say, Wales and Ironman Italy maybe. And to me, Wales is just hands down the winner there. So I'm glad I made it.
That's good. So what did you think kind of like of the event in general, kind of like with your, like going into it, it sounds like you had you know, some form of expectation about the race, about the course, and having done it now. And I mean, I don't know if you would consider you performed really well on the day, but I think you finished 5th. Is that right?
Yep.
what would kind of like your expectations versus kind of like the reality of the race? How would you kind of like draw on those?
Well, I guess firstly I should say that as soon as I arrived in Tenby, I was really blown away. I just loved the vibe of the little town when I got there, and instantly it like picked me up. I wasn't really sure of my form coming in. It had been quite a long season, and I'd been living in Girona, training in Spain, and I had quite a few niggles, and like I said earlier about my body, just I was sort of battling to get through. But as soon as I got to Tenby, I instantly felt, like I don't really care how I feel. I'm just going to enjoy this because it's such a cool place. And going for a swim down in the bay, and then got out and rode a little bit of the course. I think it was raining, of course, but it didn't really bother me. Drove the whole bike course, and I was so excited just to get out there and race. And I didn't really need to drive the run. I knew where it went. And so, my expectations were just blown out of the water as soon as I got there, not just in terms of the course, just in terms of the town. And you guys actually had great coffee there and some cool little cafes. So it just kind of made me feel a little bit at home. And I stayed at a really cool place, Myrtle House. Jan and her family, they just looked after me so well. Like we got up in the morning, went downstairs, and they asked you what you wanted, and they cooked you breakfast, and it just felt like a bit of a holiday.
Yeah.
So, but then race day just blew my mind. The crowds around the swim, and from the run from the beach to the transition was just incredible, and just so so unique. Putting your running shoes on, and wrapping my wetsuit up, putting it in the bag, and running with it like it was a rugby ball. And it was just really cool. And I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, but the bike course, I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Those really steep sort of hills at the end of the bike lap.
Yeah. In Saundersfoot,
they suck, but they're also amazing because there's so many people out supporting. And honestly, I just loved it. And in the run course as well, just full of people and tough. And I really enjoy that. Just really honest and tough course. And in running through town, and everyone out at the pubs and cafes just drinking beers and enjoying it. And I guess that's my how would you describe? That's my emotional take on the race. How I performed is probably another question that you might want to ask sometime.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll go into that in a second, but I want to dig into something which you mentioned earlier, which is completely not triathlon based, and it's all about coffee. Like, are you a proper coffee nerd? Because I am. Like, you won't believe the lengths I'll go to for a good coffee.
Yeah, I am. I think the world standard of coffee has really lifted in the last sort of, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. Even, like when I first started going to the US in 2011 kind of thing, and even when I raced in Germany, especially as an ITU athlete from 2006, 2010, the coffee in Germany was just rubbish.
Yeah.
And even I remember racing the London Triathlon a few times, and the coffee compared to New Zealand back then was just, even London wasn't that good. But I've really seen coffee just take off around the world, and like in New Zealand we have the flat white, and I think that's now quite common around the world. And when I made it to Tenby and you could order a flat white and it was actually a really good flat white, I was really impressed.
There's literally, like, when you travel, and I can speak from experience here, like when you travel, and if you like coffee and you're used to good coffee, and you get to a place and there's like an amazing coffee shop, it is like the best feeling in the world. there's just nothing like it. Hong Kong is one of the best for me. I mean, I've not been to New Zealand, but Australia has obviously got an amazing coffee scene. And especially Melbourne is just like ridiculous. Every 10 steps is kind of, there's an amazing coffee place, and then they do amazing cakes in most of the coffee shops there as well. Not good for keeping my kilos down, but yeah, good for the taste buds. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. But it's good to hear you say that, to be fair, about Tenby.
Yeah, and coffee and a scone or a muffin. Like if I can combine my coffee with a good scone or muffin, then I'm double happy. And that was the case in Tenby. So it was just all these little boxes started getting ticked, and I was happy to be there. And it was cold, and it was cold. It's not cold, but it was just perfect racing temperature. So that just made it all better.
Staying on the coffee side of things here, what's kind of like your coffee game like at home?
Well, I don't have a flash machine. I usually do a stovetop espresso type thing.
Yeah.
Or to be honest, I drink instant. I because I like to save my good coffees for when I'm out riding. Especially now that I'm retired. That's my excuse. I'll go for a ride for a coffee. So
nice.
But my parents live just down the road. They've got a good machine. So if I'm really desperate, I go and get onto it there.
Nice. So delving into kind of like into Tenby a little bit more and your performance. I mean, you're renowned for being one of the best swimmers on kind of like the scene. Kind of how would you, if you were to delve into your performance on the swim in Tenby, because I think you were just under 47 minutes, I think, for that swim course. Kind of like how would you break that down and just talk about the swim itself and even just the swim start, because I know, like, to be fair, like it's the only race I've ever done, Ironman race, so I don't really know any different. But yeah, just talk about the swim a little bit and kind of what you think, how it went on the day.
Yeah, I can't really remember the start. I think I was just blown away with all the crowd and everything. I think it was a beach start and we ran in and coming from sort of living by the beach and a surf lycée and surfing background, for me, a beach start is ideal. I can usually get a bit of a lead just through running into the water. So I think I got clear water straight away and just settled into my rhythm. And I actually really enjoyed lap 2 when I had to weave in and out of all the age groupers. Like that to me was completely took my mind off the swim, and I was just focused on not trying to run anyone over or anything. And then obviously jumping out of the water is just a completely different experience there, and trying to sort of get the blood pumping in the legs before you start that run to the bike. So beautiful swim, just amazing setting when you look up at the sort of the I guess the cliff there, or what do you call it? The banks and all the colourful places. And the sun was rise. It was incredible. It was a good fun swim.
Where did your kind of like where did your kind of swim or strong swim background kind of like start? How did you become such a bloody amazing swimmer?
I was a good pool swimmer as a kid, like a New Zealand age group champion through from say 12 to 18. Just across freestyle and IM and butterfly events. But I was never, I wouldn't say world class even as an age grouper. I think my strength for triathlon swimming has just come from my experience and comfort sort of in the surf. So I've always been a surfer, and I've surfed sort of in Indonesia and Fiji and around the place. And so I just feel really comfortable in the open water, and I think I've just sort of adapted my stroke to suit open water swimming. And I'm also a bit of a diesel, so I can kind of chug along at that good pace for a long time. But if you ask me to go too much faster, honestly, I probably couldn't, especially in my older age. So yeah, just the lucky mix of pool swimming and surfing and stuff that's sort of led me to where I am now.
You said you've adapted your stroke. Is that something which has just happened kind of like naturally, or it was that kind of like a conscious decision to kind of like adapt it to the sport that you obviously found yourself in?
Just a lucky thing, I guess, that I've had since I was a young kid swimming. Breathing every couple of strokes. I'm not sure if that really has anything to do with it, but I know in the pool you'd always be taught to try and breathe bilaterally, both sides, which is fine. And I guess it's fine in the open water as well. But for some reason, I just feel like my breathing every 2 strokes seems to help in the open water, just for a rhythm, and kind of keep the tempo going and keep the oxygen going in, so you're not sort of overworking anything, I guess. But hey, honestly, any stroke will be a good stroke. It's just training and a bit of feel, and sometimes a bit of luck too.
Because you are talking to someone. When I signed up for Ironman Wales, I done it in 2018. I literally couldn't get from one side of the pool to the other. I was pretty useless. And it's funny you mention about kind of like the bilateral stuff, because like that's something that I was always taught as a kid. And when I started training for Ironman Wales and I was doing this bilateral breathing, bloody hell, I just didn't have enough time to get any air in, and I went for a lesson with a local guy called Kevin Pullen, who's really good guy, well-renowned coach in the area. And that's the first thing he said to me, is kind of like switch from bilateral to kind of like to breathe in the same side, and it completely transformed how long I could swim for. Anyway, I wouldn't say it transformed my swimming, but it certainly prolonged how long I could kind of swim for, which was awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of people do have a favorite sort of side, the most comfortable side. So I think when you're training, bilateral breathing is good for training, but when you get into race day, you just got to do what's you're most comfortable with. Don't force something that feels wrong, So when you're racing, just for me, it's breathing to my right. So I just do that for basically the whole swim, and that's what feels good. The swimmers, in my mind, just about kind of being comfortable. So do what works for you best.
Class. So kind of going into like the other elements of the race in Tenby, then kind of like from a performance standpoint, kind of like how would you kind of break down the swim and the run from your race in Tenby? And I know we're focusing on the race in Tenby, not other races, but and I appreciate it's quite a while back as well. But if you've got any kind of like certain memories about, even if you went into a little dark place or whatever, I'd love to hear a little bit more about it, because like I said earlier, speaking of Nikki Bartlett, she said that in one of her races in Wales, she almost stopped on lap 2 of the run, and then continued and had like the best last 2 laps ever. And it was really interesting because it's very, very often that I think about stopping, when you train in racing and stuff, and just hearing it from you guys is quite interesting. So yeah, if you could elaborate maybe a little bit more about the details of the run, the bike, that would be amazing.
So I didn't really know the lead I had getting onto the bike out of the swim, but I think I might have got told by a motorbike maybe as 5 to 6 minutes, and so I'd done some math in my head, and I like Joe Skipper was racing, so I knew he would be riding the house down and chasing me down. So honestly, on that course and the way I'd been training and riding, I gave Joe 1 minute every 10K. So I expected to be caught at about 60K. And I didn't have my power on my screen or even heart rate. I just had time, because when I first started racing long distance, that was how I raced. I just raced on feel. And looking back, I always raced better like that. So for Tenby or for Wales, I just said stuff that I'm going back to that. And so I had no idea if I was going too hard or where I was at, but it felt right at the time. And I was just enjoying it. And so I was probably riding a little bit better than I thought I was coming into the race. And I think I held on until about 120K in the lead. And for me, I was really happy with that. Like I said, I've been battling quite a few issues with the body, and I was happy just to be sort of riding well. And I did the math, and I was like, wow, I might only be 5 minutes off the bike behind these guys if I can do a good last 60K. The last 60K definitely felt the pinch a bit. But I think I got off the bike, and I passed Joe, because Joe had a bit of an incident with his wheel or something. He punctured, and so I passed him, and then I was surprised when I finally got off the bike. and I think the ride time was maybe 4:56. And looking at the previous year's results, I was pretty, like, I thought 4:56 was good. And I saw the leaders, running out of transition, so that gave me a good spark for the run. And honestly, felt really good. I thought I was going to be completely toast getting onto the run, but felt really good. And across my mind, I kind of thought, oh shit, I'm back. Like, I haven't had a good marathon for years. For whatever reasons, that's probably a whole another story. But so I just held back, and ran that first 10K, and it felt really easy. And I thought, this is good. I just got to get to that sort of about 3 or 2.5 laps in. That 25, 28K mark was when I thought I'll pick it up. And it seems to be always the case in the last sort of few years for my marathons. I get to that 28K mark and just completely implode. So that was, to be honest, pretty heartbreaking. I really had thought that maybe it was going to be my time again for a good marathon, but the last sort of 15, 20K just turned into a complete battle. And I think I actually ran for most of that last 15K, but like every step just hurt like nothing else. And I think I walked the aid stations, got as much as I could in, but I just battled through that last 10 to 15K, and I was just happy that I soldiered on and got through it. And in the end, Joe was running me down still for 5th place. Turns out he got disqualified, so I wasn't too happy about him torturing me for the last sort of 5K. But I got there in 5th. That's honestly one of my most complete performances over the last couple of years. As I keep saying, I've just had some battles and had surgery mid-2018 and just haven't been able to bounce back from that. So for me, Wales was one of my best races sort of since then, and also I just loved it there and had my partner Annabelle there to support, and the town was awesome. And if I was racing professionally, I'd be back there this year. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you put like that success for you down to the fact that you kind of went into it with like a slightly different mindset, in like you mentioned earlier about not getting too focused on the numbers on the bike and just enjoying it a little bit more? Kind of is like, can you draw kind of like a lot of like success from that mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole race and the whole event it felt right to be there, and I think that's really important when you want to race well. And I was relaxed, and I threw everything at it, and that's what it felt good to want to do that. Sometimes if you're racing and you're not quite on song with your mindset, then it's really hard to battle through. But as much of a battle as it was at the end of the run, I was still kind of happy to do it, just because I was happy to be there. And to be honest, really glad I made it. And I hope to be back as soon as I can be, probably as an age grouper, but I'm fine with that.
How old are you, Dylan, if you don't mind me asking?
34.
Okay. Are you younger than me?
So,
yeah.
that's another story, like about a retirement and everything. I know I'm probably actually quite young to retire and should be in my prime, but the body's just been battling. So I want to be able to race these things for as long as I can, and definitely hope to make it back to Tenby a few more times. So to me, that was priority, not beating up the body some more.
Yeah, sure. What have you got in plan? Kind of like, what does life look like now, kind of after retirement for you?
So I've bit of a side story. I've also been on the board of the Professional Triathletes Organisation, the PTO. We actually sort of formed way back in 2014. And went through a few iterations and a few speed bumps, and finally got there last year with an investor, which we're super lucky to have. And so my retirement kind of ended up fitting in quite well to the board meeting, sort of a full-time kind of secretary. So I've kind of slipped into that role. So at the moment I'm sort of the point person for the athlete board, and doing 15, 20 hours a week of work for them. So I hope to be able to just help the PTO to set up this first sort of year or two, and then hopefully it's all guns a-blazing from them.
Yeah, I listened to a couple of podcasts actually. I can't remember the guy who's heading up the PTO. I can't remember his name, but he was on a podcast. I'm trying to think what podcast it was. I'll have to dig it out and put it in the show notes. But it was so interesting to kind of hear like what they're trying to do, and the platform that they're trying to build, for all of the athletes. And like I alluded to earlier, like the comparisons that I draw on golf and triathlon is so different, where kind of you got golf, which is a participation sport, but it's also a viewer sport as well, which is viewed heavily on TV. There's lots of events. It's easy to kind of televise as well. Whereas you kind of take like a triathlon, where it's mainly a participation sport, is probably the hardest sport to televise ever, because especially when you're looking at Ironman, it's so interesting to kind of hear like the challenges that they've got in that sport, and it'd be really interesting to see which way it goes now over the next couple of years, whether they kind of like they almost like build events based on kind of like, televising them rather than doing it the other way around, trying to televise something like Ironman Wales. I mean, it's almost impossible to televise that, from start to finish and get good coverage, of all the different athletes. But I think, what was the event they done last year on the racetrack? Daytona, was it? Was it Daytona?
Daytona, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that to me has got to be kind of like almost like a start of something that they're trying to build there, because I mean that you can televise that all day long, right? In that kind of environment.
Yeah. So that's the first planned event. We did have supposed to have the Collins Cup end of May this year, but obviously that couldn't take place. So our next planned event is in Daytona, where, as you say, the focus is on just flipping it on its head, so basically the standard is good coverage, not really participation. Even though Daytona's got a great participation race there and stuff, we just want to pick venues that we can really showcase the athletes. And so fingers crossed we can get an event off the ground there. It's a bit of a tough year to launch the PTO, but if we can make it through this year, then I think things will be good. And we just really want to. We see a lot of value in the professionals but still the interaction that we can have with age groupers, I think that's really special. And so we want to keep that, but we also want to help, like I say, showcase the pros and the racing a bit better, and try and create some really competitive and compelling coverage. So
yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think
1 year.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I look at it and I think, the sport has just got so much potential, because people get into it in such a big way. I mean, like me, for an example, I going back 3 years ago, I never thought that I would be into triathlon, but I just got completely hooked by it. And I can't see myself doing anything else, for the next 10 years. But like, if they can televise those events really well, I think the potential for sponsors to come on board, and for big, corporate companies to get involved in the sport, I think is massive. And, I'd like to think that, professional triathlon will be like golf, in some respects, where, there's big companies sponsoring events all over the world, week in, week out. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to kind of see which way it goes.
Yeah. So am I, and I'm really happy to, and pretty lucky to be a part of it. And we've got Charles Adama, who's our chairman. He's the guy that basically pulled it all together. So super lucky to have had Charles do his thing, and Sam Renoff is now our CEO. They're both based in London. So we've got a great team, and the commercial guys are doing some really great work. So
class.
Yep. Fingers crossed. And it might not be such a good thing for Ironman Wales. I know it already sells out in about 2 hours. So if the sport of triathlon increases in popularity, they might have to look at a 2-day event or something in Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Hopefully it
well,
doesn't keep selling out too fast, because if I have to enter as an age grouper, then I want to be able to get a spot if I can.
well, but believe it or not, right? This year's event actually sold out before it opened, because I don't know whether you know this, right? But like all of the there was like a link that was sent out, and there was massive controversy over it, right? So all of the athletes who participated in 2019, they all got sent a priority link, and for whatever reason, right, these links worked more than once. So because 2020, right, was the 10-year anniversary, there was just like, you know, there was just massive demand for the event. So they actually closed the event before it actually opened, because there was so many people kind of like entering on that priority link.
Yep.
So yeah, next year obviously is gonna be a sellout, because it's been cancelled and postponed to next year, and
Yep.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it's the same the year after. So kind of
I'm not.
going. Go on.
I'm not
Sorry.
surprised, to be honest. And it's just such an amazing event, and the people of Pembrokeshire are just amazing people, just so friendly, and yeah, definitely not surprised it sold out in a heartbeat. And I was thinking it might be all the drunk people out in the town entering as soon as or even overnight for the next year or something, because they all seem to get into it pretty heavy. So yeah.
Can you imagine if the country had come off lockdown end of August and Ironman Wales was on? Can you imagine how many drunk people would be on the streets there? It would be chaos. It would be chaos.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah. So like just to finish off here, Dylan, I'm so grateful for your time, and I'm conscious that I don't want to keep you too long. And certainly I don't want you eating any cold dinner tonight. But if you were to kind of like just put a couple of kind of pointers together for any age groupers who were potentially looking to go and race Ironman Wales, what were kind of like just a couple of pointers that you would say are really key things to look out for, having done the race in 2019?
Probably don't set any time expectations. That would be a key one for me, just because the course is just not normal at all. And I think we had really good weather last year comparatively to some of the other years I've heard about. So it's not something you want to set expectations. It really is one of those bucket list races that you go just to enjoy, I think. So as always, I always say to everyone I coach as well, just the main thing is you got to go out there and enjoy it today. And if you do that, just like I sort of proved myself last year in Wales, was if you enjoy it, you'll actually perform a lot better than maybe sometimes you expect. So the training, I mean, for someone like Wales, I'd find someone who's done it before and just ask them some tips and pointers. Everything about that course is quite unique, and even, you know, they call it the Aussie exit, where you've got to run out of the swim and then back in. You can try and train that around a pool, but it might be a bit slippery. So just get down to your local beach and do some open water swimming, and train a few of those Aussie exits. Nothing will beat that kind of specific training. Cycling, just make sure you got a good easy gear for those steep hills, because they are pretty brutal, and that you have some good working brakes on your bike, that's for sure. And then on the run, well, start easy and probably get easier if you can, because it's a brutal run course, but it's good fun. And yeah, just bottom line, if you go out there to enjoy it, it'll be a good day.
Awesome. I mean, that's me on questions. I just want to say, you know, a massive thank you. I know you mentioned you do some coaching as well, so we'll put kind of like the links to all of your to your website in the show notes as well, for anybody who wants to you know, take a look at Dylan's services and see what he offers. But Dylan, I want to say a massive thank you. I'm so grateful for your time. I know it's quite late there in New Zealand, so yeah, massive thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of people who listen to this who are going to take a lot of value from it. So thank you very much indeed.
No, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone in Tenby and Wales last year. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, to be honest, like, the fact that it's been cancelled this year is Well, it's probably not a good thing for me because I wouldn't mind entering next year. So I hope to see you all back there next year.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll dig out some good coffee stops for you.
Thanks.
Dylan, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers.
Cheers.